All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Undercover ET and a special guest on the show tonight. Thank you very much for your time, Ed Casas. Is that right, Casas? Have I said that right?
Technically, I think it's Casas, but I
Casas?
think the Anglophones go with the K. But I'm kind of leaning more into the stronger Ka now
Oh,
because of my recent research.
oh, okay. So even the pronunciation of your name has changed over the years because of your research. Amazing.
I'll accept Casas or Cassis. Usually Cassis is definitely that's definitely Anglo, very like northeasterner people are going to say that. So you're right in the neighborhood.
Good stuff. Yeah. Man, thank you so much for being on the show. I was recommended to interview you because apparently you're the man to speak to regarding the tridactyl beings, right? These
Well,
Nazca
that's
mummies.
very kind of him to say. Yeah, thank you. Wow.
First of all, because no one here in the UK knows who you are, Ed. And
Oh,
we've had a
well,
few Eds on the show recently, so we need
I
to.
was in the UK Sun once, but that's a different
Okay.
story. I can't discuss that on the air.
Oh, well, we'll have to talk about that off air for sure. Um, how did you get into, because you're a former archaeologist, right?
I sure am.
How did you even get into, obviously growing up, you must have had an urge to know about history, but how did you get into it?
Oh,
Tell us.
do you know, do you mind? Do you have a moment for an origin story? Because I was told by somebody once that, hey, just come and talk about what you came to talk about. That's what I was told. So do you have a moment for an origin story of a child?
I've got all the time in the world, Ed. Let's go.
You know, I've always been into really cool and interesting, fun stuff. I mean, I'm a Star Wars kid. Grew up with Star Wars. Like, people ask me, what's your favorite movie? Star Wars. And then, I know a lot of filmmakers, and they're all like, ew, Star Wars. Like they expect me to say Citizen Kane or some Casablanca or some crap, right? So I think I've always just kind of leaned into just outside realms of possibility.
Sure.
But I think must have been 8 or 9 years old in Bridgeport, Pennsylvania. We lived on a hill, and there in the dirt in the hill, I pulled out a little tiny, I should get one to sample, a little Egyptian shabti in Bridgeport, Pennsylvania. Now, it was probably some arts and crafts. Uh, it could have been from when there was a tour of mummies and whatnot in the early 1900s, whatever. But the fact that I found this little mummy looking thing in my own yard, I think I look, and believe me, I've only really kind of thought back on that moment recently. And I think something went
How
because
interesting.
it said anything's possible, you know? And I think about Scooby Doo, Scooby Doo is what I think I used to rush home for Scooby Doo because of the monsters and the mysteries. And it just said to me, like, oh, wow, Scooby Doo stuff can happen in real life. So I think what is the takeaway from that? I don't know. Encourage imagination in your children, I guess.
I think that's brilliant. I think what you did, and this is what it makes it more brilliant because you're only 8 years old. But what you did actually was you took a scenario and you read into the possibilities that scenario created for you, and you took it literal because it is literal, you know? And I think that's
I
what the
literally
UK
found
community are
something.
missing, for sure. Yeah. You found
So,
something, you can't ignore the possibilities, right? And it does lead to a road, right, of possibilities. And respect, man. And that I was after an answer like that, to be honest. I was so interested to know what first stemmed you into your research, and that is an honest answer. Thank you very much.
yeah, I mean, I have a couple other like leveling ups if you'd like me to go through them.
Sure, sure.
So as a young kid, and I'm sure a lot of maybe kids did this back in the day. So I'm not saying I'm exceptional, but I'm saying my grandfather noted that I would read the encyclopedia and the dictionaries, and he like told my parents. So it's there's that interesting generational gap that sometimes happens with parents and grandparents and the children. And I think this was one of those incidents where the grandfather recognized something that perhaps his children did not. So let's fast forward again to something called In Search of. So I'll put a little plug in for my show. I do my show, I guess it would be, we are what? We decided it is what time where you are?
Just gone 5 o'clock, quarter past five, nearly.
quarter past 5 o'clock. So that's a 5 hour difference. So at midnight your time, I think it is. I run a show 7 p.m. here because it's the in search of time slot. So I do it on Sundays at 7 p.m. New York time because I'm mimicking In Search Of, hosted by Leonard Nimoy, because the Patterson Bigfoot video is another one of those things that makes you go, whoa, what is that?
For sure. For
And
sure.
so that set me off on that journey. Now, my mother, of course, is like, that's a hoax. That's fake, right? But then, and let's look another generational skipping thing, I go and visit my great aunts,
Hmm.
okay, the older ones, living together. They give me a stack of Time Life books: Evolution, Early Man, Primates, yada, yada. And there in the Early Man pages are these Bigfoot looking creatures. Close his book. Because now that suggests, wait a minute, once again, the possibilities are there. So it's not necessarily just write it off as fake. There are parallels.
Yeah.
There are predecessors. Predecessors?
Yeah. I call
So
it dot connecting. If you connect enough dots, it opens up the doorway to the possibility. And that possibility just seems to be expanding wider and wider as we go into this topic. And it kind of leads on nicely to the main question here, which is why you're on the show, which is what was your reaction? What did you do the moment you heard about the Nazca mummies? And I'm not talking about we're going to go into the ones that was found in the airport, but I'm on about the actual mummies. Okay, we'll go into the fake ones in a minute, but the ones that we believe to be real. What was your first reaction?
I dismissed them and probably went back to researching something for Dungeons and Dragons or acting or something. I dismissed
That's a
them.
real answer right there, because that's I
X.
most
I
people
X
do
the
it.
screen, I think.
Most people went, whatever, whatever, they can't be real, whatever. And of course, then they came out with the news of the guy that got stopped at the airport, and they were dressed up in colourful attire, shall we say. Um, so your initial reaction was, boom, they're fake, move on. What made you then look twice?
My girlfriend came by and said, "Hey, did you see these things? You might want to take a look at them."
And your partner, is she in the business? She an
She is,
archaeologist?
well, we met at a museum. That's at the museum. Which one is it? Probably this patch. No, this patch. We actually met at this museum. So we're still very good friends, but we've gone our separate ways since. Not because of the mummies. She is still very involved. She designs the logos, and you can find her on X as Cyberlinks.
Cool.
She designs the logos and much of the tech that allows me to even do what I'm doing right now. So she's still the benevolent benefactor of all of this here.
You couldn't have sounded any more happy about that. See, Ed, even though you're a man of science and a man of history and a man of integrity, you're still human, right, buddy?
That's exactly true. That's so true.
I'll
So
drink to
thank God
that.
for her pointing these out and kind of like
Sure.
suggesting, hey, there's something might be something here. And then I think the first thing was, Dr. Dr. Jose Zalce Benitez, the lead forensic officer
Mhm.
for the Mexican Navy. So here's one of my very first points of contact with this phenomena, as on an individual basis, is Dr. Jose Zalces Benitez, the lead forensic officer of the Mexican Navy. The whole thing about hoaxes and scams and Jaime Maussan, all of that should have ended there with this man. But I mean, do you want a Dunning-Kruger world? Because that's where we're living if we suggest that we know better than this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you're a critical thinker and you know what you know, and you're not going to beat around the bush. When you come across something like that, you're there. And there's no need to be, once you, and I always say this, like once you trust someone and you've given them your trust and you know that who you're talking about, there's no need to question anything. You've already trusted them. Um, and so a very credible person who was working on the mummies,
Yeah. I
how
think he
could you
may have
not?
did a stint over across the pond and did some teaching over there or some lectures or something.
Amazing, right? And so this all came about, and I remember there was a lot of hype because at the time the Americans did not want to touch it. I remember Grush and a few of the whistleblowers saying, "Hell no, they're not real. We're not going over there." Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, "I'm not going. I've been invited, and I'm not going over there." And I thought to myself, even though you're an astronomer,
Helpful.
what? Why would you not go?
Very helpful. Thank you. I,
Yeah, like
I mean,
just go and
the other
debunk them
thing
if
he said
anything.
is like, "Oh, look, they look obviously human." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess."
Yeah, I mean, we've
From
all
like
had
a
children looking like that,
remotely
right?
curse. Yeah, exactly.
Because everyone stands there and lets a baseball get bowled
Yeah,
to their forehead. Like
right, that too. I know some things happen in West Virginia, but come on. I, I
hey,
don't think it's to that extreme. So
yeah,
it's just funny that but so he's doing the cursory dismissive thing I did alone. He's doing it out in the public, and that's
public,
the problem with a lot of this. And this is
yeah,
why I'm kind of it's like I didn't want to be in an anti-propaganda thing right now. I just wanted to research. I specifically just wanted to research the cultural stuff. I kind of got drawn into the biological because I just felt there was a bit of a there was a void that I was going to fill.
sure, and that makes perfect sense to me as well because you don't. When we go into this topic, and it's happened to me as well, I just want to know the truth. So I research and I record and I get my radio detector and I do all these things. And I don't deviate. Once I find it, I know what I found. But we enter a world of criticism and narcissism and some crazy stuff that goes on. And so it comes to us, unfortunately. And that's where I say, I don't have one on, but you do. Hats off to you because you're sticking by your guns and saying what you've got to say. Um, so, okay, so let's go back. You found your credible source. It's now everything's on the table. It's worth looking at. What do you find first? What's your go-to research when you now know that these things are worth looking at?
Well, let's keep in mind too that at the congressional hearings they had two bodies
Yeah.
and they had slides of the scans right there. So he was going through stuff, and this is 2023, which is still what 8 years after the discovery. That's part of the problem here. Is this time is going by,
Was it
and
2017 they discovered them? Or was that
I
when
think is what they're saying is that the Vaqueros discovered them, the grave robbers, as early as 2015.
right. Okay. I think the airport one was 2017, and I think that's where the information is getting,
Oh,
you
interesting.
know, I've got a feeling. I'll have to double check.
What I've done is with my AI is I've just added as much as I could as far as information. So it's not just polling the internet, but it's also looking for uh, specifics. So, but go ahead, keep talking here. I'm just looking for something on the side.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like we should really just touch on. We're not going to spend too much time on the fake ones, but we need to make that point. In 2000, I think it was 2017, a man was stopped at an airport. Was it in Mexico?
Let's see, airport. I'm just gonna look up
I've got
find
the image in my
airport
head, but
find.
I couldn't tell you exactly which airport
Yeah.
it was.
So what I've done was with the AI, I've added a lot of just things so that we can. So it looks like no. So the dolls. Well, at least this is saying 2024.
Airport Dolls episode. January 12th. Was it January 12th? Was it that late?
Yeah, we may have to look into this. You still can't. Let's remember, kids. You can't still trust the AI. So you still
Yeah, I thought it was a
you
bit
still
earlier
got to
for
do your
sure.
hands-on research. So you're saying that I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Anyway,
the mainstream didn't pick up the actual mummies, and the coffins and stuff like that. They didn't start showing that until 2023, right? So
yeah,
um,
and people are still showing like the doll too. Like even people who are like seem to be acting like they're talking about the proof of all of this seem to be still like showing that one of the doll pictures, which is disturbing.
sure. Well, the guy that made that said that it was made in the image of the Nazca beings.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, he admits that they were made, but
Yeah.
they were made in an image of some.
Yeah. Look at this. I mean, here.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Awesome.
I hope I don't get this confiscated in the airport, right?
You'll have the men in black knocking on the door soon.
By the way, Sky actually did win one of these legit.
Oh, cool.
So I was going to mail it to his address in here in Florida that he's going to have, or I'll just give it to him personally.
Why not? Why not?
We were talking about that. I'm saying that Zalce's showing slides.
Yeah.
And I think that's also when they mention Cliff Miles. Cliff Miles is a paleontologist. Is he in that shady, scary land of Peru or that horrible, dark place of Mexico? No, he's in Canada. He's a legit paleontologist with a paleontological company with published papers in paleontology. And you can see I got a couple of my patches here. Um, Being that I've worked at a museum, my background is anthropology and archaeology, paleotech. I used to work alongside a very young paleontologist who's been on Attenborough's BBC. Yeah, look up
Mhm.
Bobby De Palma. Bobby De Palma and I used to hang out together. He will not touch this topic, by the way. In fact, none of my museum colleagues are touching this topic.
Mm.
In fact, and this is part of the isolation of this whole thing is that many of them won't even return calls on this topic.
That's so sad. I was just saying on my last show how people degrading the scientists that are leaning into this, we definitely shouldn't be encouraging that. Like we've waited long, long time for scientists to suddenly think outside the box, and there's only a
Mm-hmm.
few of them that are. And we should
Mm-hmm.
get behind them. And I can't understand it, but you're right. A lot of scientists don't want to touch this. Why do you think that is?
Preconceived notions.
Hmm.
You
I think that's
know,
the
I
main
mean,
one.
maybe there were some missteps. Maybe the word alien turned people off, and we shouldn't have went that direction. I don't know. But we're talking about Cliff Miles. My point was,
Yeah.
here's a paleontologist. So this is, I can understand this person. Just like Zalce Benitez being a forensic anthropologist, I can understand these people. I understand their degrees. I understand their experience.
Mhm.
So I already have, now I have these two guys. I've got these two guys telling us all this stuff. But people don't want to listen to these two guys. Ask your common skeptic to name one of them. They can only name one name. Typically, one name only comes to mind. And a man by the name of Masan, who is a former 60 Minutes reporter for Mexico. 60 Minutes has a little bit of credibility, at least in the States. A former reporter who is not the lead investigator, didn't find the mummies, is not a researcher, is not an archaeologist. But for some reason, people want to focus on him. And I hate to get paranoid or conspiratorial, but the mentality of people focusing on that direction and not the science, it does feel like an agenda because I'm like, I can't understand a logical person doing this unless it's a goal. So
Yeah.
that's strange. So there's been a lot of stuff for my head to just get around. My museum friends won't touch this. Even guys I know who are like into aliens and weird stuff are like fake or let me tell you about this verse. That's I have a friend who like I'll mention some cool thing and then he has to like tell me something he saw in Ancient Aliens.
Um,
this is a strange time, my man. So when I
it is.
say I appreciate you letting me talk, I'm being sincere.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, like I'm much like yourself. I just need to know the answers and get it out there. with no restrictions. It's just a curiosity thing. We're totally within our rights to know about human nature. So, like, or nature in general, like, not even human, just beings in general. That's just my view on it, and that's why I do it. And also, I had my own experience last year as well, which is no, I can't explain what happened, but in a nutshell, we got something else going on this planet, in this universe. We got to work it out. This all ties in with the it feels like an agenda, right? That's going on. You can't, you're not a conspiracy theorist, but it feels like, I mean, there's solid evidence there. Why would you beat around the bush, is what you're saying, right? In a
Yeah,
nutshell.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
he's
I'm
got
being facetious because the skeptics who are also shedding a light of bigotry
right.
are implying over and over again that somehow Peru and Mexico aren't qualified. I want to clear that up, because I also joke and I call Dr. McDowell the Great White Hope. And
Mm,
again, that's not me with a Caucasian agenda. It's that we, on the side of the authenticity side, we're saying, these people need some sort of American guy to come out and tell them that this is real because they're not believing the South Americans and the Latinos. So when McDowell came forward and people are like, oh, well, there you go. Now we got an expert on it. Meanwhile, we've had 20 guys that are experts,
yeah, with
but
machinery.
they were all south of the border. So that's my point on Miles. It's like, oh, he's in Canada. So does he
Yeah.
get a. But even on the Latin American side, now, I don't know if this is some sort of competitive research nature, but Miles, who has, I think, the most definitive report on this, who
Right.
I like, I look at it today and I'm just like, oh, you know what? He's good. He knows so much about this. Maybe there's some things we do disagree on, but I used his report, and he was fed by Galetki, who is from Russia. Again, not south of the border.
How can't
So
you just
he
get
was
the
fed
information
by a
from the
medical
source?
doctor from Russia, from St. Petersburg University, Dr.
Mm,
Galetki. That fed Miles, and I do a lot of my work springboarding off of Miles. So
right.
when people say the science hasn't been done, the science has been done. It's been done here, 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 and now I'm taking it. And I meant to be just an intermediary, a sort of social media teacher, an educator utilizing social media. But yeah, I definitely, I feel like I've grown from just that simple role that I thought I was stepping into.
I think that's naturally going to happen as well, Ed, because the the world, as this comes to light, is changing in terms of the perception of people,
Mm.
and they're going to ask questions. They're going to need people to educate them with what's just suddenly come around. Now, the UFO community because you're on X and you do your research and stuff, but you also are fully aware that the majority of the people in the world are not interested in this topic because they just simply do not believe. And so they are going to get one hell of a shock when they realize that these things are real, all the rest of
Some
it.
people will,
Some
but
people will. Some people will
some
still.
people have an amazing shield of faith,
Amazing shield. Yeah,
and
I have to
it'll
agree.
defend them from such facts,
From the evil, from the evil.
from the evil facts.
Yeah. We got about 7 minutes left before we go into our break, and we haven't even got into the Nazca Mummy stuff yet. So
Oh my God! See, I just talk and talk. Sorry.
no, that's fine. Let's go into the first mummy that you would. Well, let's go into it. What do you want to talk about first? Which Nazca mummy do you want to talk about first? I know you've got various pictures and
Well, we should make a point because, and again, this is for the skeptics also. If you're going to talk smack about some morphology, some specimen, you better have your doctor's name ready because I'm going to ask you. You better have the specimen's name because I'm going to ask you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So let's start that our first two mummies that the world, they've been around for a while. 2023 that were
yep.
introduced to Mexican Congress were Clara and Mauricio.
Mhm.
I think those are privately owned. I'm not sure who owns them. These have been sold for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But Josephina is considered, and this is her head. Josephine is actually considered the holotype. Is really on many of the studies, she's specimen number one to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Josephina and Alberto were were two of the documented beings that we first came across. In fact, I think they were, and again, these numbers can change by researchers. I think Alberto they were calling two. Um, I think at one point Maria was three. Maria is a hybrid, so that means, well, even the little ones are likely some sort of a hybrid.
Yeah.
But Maria is a significantly more human hybrid than the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And then there's Victoria, which is really a shameful name for this specimen, which I suggest is the most important individual in the history of humankind. They call that specimen number four.
Wow. Wow. And how many, I know we're not going to skip too much, but how many bodies have they found?
I want to say over 20. I've kind of lost track myself.
There's been all sorts of numbers floating around. And
And that's not even counting the larva. The larva, I named like some of the first few larvae I found. I don't even know if I'm allowed to do that technically, but I don't see anybody else talking about them. So,
yeah.
so that's why I say I am leading into my last name of Casas because that's what I named the first embryo larval form I discovered in
It's
an
making
egg of
sense now.
Artemis.
It's making sense now. I see what you're doing. Interesting. Very, very cool. Very cool. You've
Fun stuff.
so these so you reckon around 20. The figure's been thrown around quite a bit. I've
Well,
heard much larger numbers.
Well, okay, there's numbers in the background now, of course. Yeah, I'm saying about the 20, there's about 20 documented. Probably as many larval forms for all I know. And there's what? Talk of hundreds, maybe thousands.
Mm, mm.
So,
Underground
yeah,
tunnels.
very interesting
There's
stuff.
definitely some secrecy about it because even people that are going on the black market or contacting the guys out in Peru that know where the tunnels are, they're paying them $3,000 to take them to the wrong flipping tunnel.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, I mean,
Hey, they're
how do
paying a
you?
million for the bodies, I think, right?
That's incredible.
I mean, they're really priceless when you think about it.
I mean, they are, and you know, anyone would pay any amount for them. Um, but these are the challenges that we're facing regarding the research. It's being pushed out to God knows who, at God knows what cost, and used for God knows what agendas. This is the
Yeah, if
main
you think of
problem.
all the secret rotten things humans do on the planet, and now we've spirited away some of these specimens so somebody can show it off to their friends. You
Yeah,
know, what's going to happen? We're going to have to wait for them to die, and then their grandkids are going to be like, oh, this needs to be seen by the world. But until then, they're going to hold on. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's going to sit too well with the ETs, is it? If I mean, if they
You know,
if they turn
well,
up and they're like, well,
you
this
know
guy's
this.
just come off the red carpet and he's just invited all of his mates back because in his cabinet at home he's got an ET, right? It's not going to sit good, is it, with the
Maybe,
our friends?
maybe, I don't know. I get well, you know, they could see it could be seen as a form of reverence, perhaps.
Maybe. Actually, if someone offered me that choice, I might take that. You'd
Exact,
get
of
to witness
course.
all the parties after life, wouldn't you? All right, welcome back to part two. Let me get this right. Xenoanthropologist.
No,
Did
dude,
I not say that right? Oh, it's gone off my screen.
just say the last part with the A.
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. I had it a second ago, but
He's-
why is it not on my screen now? Xenoanthropologist.
Yeah,
Come
it's
on.
okay. Nobody's really using that. I purposely adopted that for what I
Yeah,
do.
the Xeno thing just throws me off because anthropologist, I can say absolutely fine.
Yes.
You're talking to the least technical person in the world. It just so happens that
Oh,
I can record UAP live and I know what I'm looking
wow.
at. Yeah, I don't know why, well, I don't know why I see him and why I have experiences and stuff like that, but it is what it is, you know. Um, we don't pick the cards we're dealt. That's why I asked you what really why you got into this. But let's get into the nitty-gritty because the Nazca mummies themselves, Ed, obviously you've delved into it. You've told us about a few of the beings. let's talk about structure. What makes them so different to us? Because obviously we've got those noodles out there saying that they're human beings, little human beings. What makes them different to us, apart from
Well,
visually?
you know, there's one important part of the story that we neglected.
Okay.
So while the doctors, Dr. Zalce, Benitez, and the paleontologist, Clifford Miles, were very exacting in their report, it wasn't until I had my own personal moment of enlightenment when I recognized the beings. And I
Yeah.
recognized them from petroglyphs in both Canada
Yeah.
and the Caribbean.
Interesting.
Not only did I recognize them, but I recall asking my professor 20 some years ago if there was any connection between the petroglyphs in Canada and the petroglyphs in the Caribbean, and he said no.
Did he give you a
I
reason?
remember that question. Of all the questions I asked, for some reason, I remember asking that one specifically about these petroglyphs in relation to these bodies.
And he just outright said no. No. I mean, what
He
was
said there was no connection between the Canadian and the Caribbean because there's thousands of miles and thousands of years. So this is
wow.
where traditional anthropologists call it independent innovation. But
Yeah.
don't get it twisted. That's a fancy way of saying coincidence.
Yeah.
So while anthropologists build their entire structure of their science around cultural diffusion,
Hmm.
how cultural traits get diffused from
Hmm.
one place to another, when it comes to something they can't explain, independent innovation.
Yeah.
So this says a couple of things to me. One is, unfortunately, we can't continue to go with the traditional narrative
Mhm.
anymore. And by me recognizing these bodies from petroglyphs and then connecting them to other cultures around the world, it started to make sense who these beings were. So that's how I really got into it. And it was the night of a lunar eclipse, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote my first, I believe it was my first draft of the constant companion theory. We were never alone. These beings have been with us for a very long time. And my first evidence of it was those petroglyphs. I barely even touched the surface of the cultural impact the beings had in Peru because I already knew it was there. I saw the traces of the art and the three fingers and did some cursory research into the myth. But for me to see the Caribbean and Canada, then we already see that the circumference is now spreading.
Yeah. So it was
From
literally it was
there,
dismissed. Sorry, it was dismissed because of the distance only.
distance and time is usually what is usually stops things. Yeah. So
Sure.
even if something looks alike, even if
Yeah.
a cultural trait looks alike, and this it's the same with linguistics I found too, because I've since I've been doing this now full time for 2 years of investigating these beings, the theory includes language, writing. So it's several hypotheses. So I don't come to you today just saying those are aliens. Aliens built the pyramids. No, it's far more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that is how it became very, very personal. Because from there, I noticed that the Maori had their Hei Tiki,
Mhm.
green jade stone, little heart shaped faced beings with three fingers that they called ancestors.
Yeah.
Now, this used to choke me up when I would think about it. The Maori would consider a little round faced being, green stone, red eyes, fanged, an ancestor being.
Sounds like something from the Brazilian sighting with the skull, and they saw the small being with the red eyes, all
Well,
the
that
school
and the
kids.
cranial ridges.
Yeah. Again, just
That and
connecting
the odor
dots.
that accompanied with it, which is a traditional abductee
Yeah.
account. It's also a traditional metaphysical occult account of the being smelling like sulfur.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you consider the beings do not have lungs,
Hmm.
So if I say to you, I have an animal that has 3 digits and does not have lungs, what would that tell you? Anything?
Doesn't need oxygen.
It does,
Really?
because
With no
we
lungs?
have parallels in
Okay.
this world. We have amphibians who have no lungs. They breathe cutaneously. And we also have several
Through
amphibian
through the
species,
pores.
salamanders and frogs, with
Sure.
3 digits.
Sure. So it's quite possible actually that they could evolve it, or albeit there could be an intelligent species out there that could breathe through their skin. Um, yeah,
Mhm.
it's plausible. It's very plausible. Absolutely.
So that is two of my beginning of my journey also into the biological science of it. See, I just wanted to focus on the cultural.
Sure.
But again, I feel like I was filling a void and I was leaping off from where Miles took off. So I do have something to show you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So this is Victoria, or maybe Victor Victoria. This is the famed headless species.
Hmm.
It is also the only species in a seated position. Now, I have a little saying, which is the archaeology is predicting the biology.
Right.
So there are a lot of images of seated beings. So I have my own little nickname for this. I call it the seated god. But we're here to talk more about the morphology. One of the first very interesting things that people noticed was the fused interclavicle. And so you might see this on Thanksgiving. This
Sure.
is a wishbone of sorts, a
Yeah.
furcula, typically
Wow.
found in birds. So now we have that bird parallel.
Yeah.
But that's one of the very first things that you can say, well, these little beings that are only what? What are they, 60 centimeters?
They're
I mean,
tiny.
that's
Yeah.
another clue. So there's 60 centimeters with 3 fingers. Now, the other thing about the 3 fingers is you have a lot of people who are trying to find the simplest explanation for this.
Mhm.
And that their simple explanation is, well, obviously they cut off 2 fingers. Boy, if you ever see a hand that's had its fingers cut off, it is a bloody mess.
Yeah.
The bones are just disheveled and destroyed. But not only that, this simple, I call it Occam spork explanation, does nothing to explain the extra phalanges on top of each. It's just that just it ends there with these people. They can't even get
Yeah.
past that. And there's some guy who's claiming to be some morphologist specialist. And when I asked him, well, how did, because he seems to be okay with the cutting off of the fingers theory. But when I asked him how the phalanges were there, he's like, I don't know. They just kind of mashed them in there. That was this guy who was trying to give a scientific explanation right up to that point.
Wow.
And then he lost it and just, crashed out.
Yeah. Oh,
So we got a furcula here. That's your first clue that this is not human, people. I mean, okay. So the other thing that Miles pointed out as
yeah.
being a good paleontologist as he is the stomach ribs. So these beings have stomach ribs. And we can get some other angles of this, but it's good,
They
just as good for
do.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, and these stomach ribs, who knows, might be also related to some. I'm going to be jumping a lot into like archaeology and cosmology, which is probably atypical for people who are into biological science. But for me, these two are intertwined, baby. There is no longer any separating them. I no longer have guesses. I have hypotheses that were proven true by the biology. Stomach bones, ribs, floating, they're called gastralia. Look at that there. You see that there?
Yeah.
That might be possibly a larval form. I'm just noticing that now. So these beings may be sequentially hermaphroditic, which again is something you could find in the amphibian world. It has parallels, and it has parallels in cosmology.
Yeah.
Many tales of gods, male gods being impregnated, having children. So this is two of the great things about Victoria here that people are talking about, that just says, okay. And by the way, the Gastralia stomach bones are found today in crocodilians.
Wow.
Okay, we're just gonna zip along here. That's of course the her head is off,
Yeah,
and I don't know if I got to the angle I wanted to see.
that's incredible. The amount of detail you have here is incredible.
This is fine from here. Okay, if
Yeah,
your viewers are watching, note this. I believe it's the ischium, ischium. I think you have to forgive my Latin here.
looks like a
The
hip
top,
bone.
this hip bone.
Yeah,
Yep, and then over here it's missing.
yeah.
It appears as though this creature experienced an injury, and if you look at the knees, this knee appears to be higher. In fact, this leg appears to be more robust. So my theory is that, like any good amphibian or reptilian, this creature may have experienced um, re, uh, regeneration, growing back. That's a bit of a
Would you
hypothesis. That's
would you,
one,
would
not one of my strongest ones, but that's what I'm going to
would
go
you
with.
say that the left leg is slightly more forward, which is why it's lower down?
That's a good one. Yeah, yeah, that could be too. That's a great way to look at it. Absolutely.
I mean, the biological image that we're getting here does not shout human being at all,
Right.
at all.
So let's see here now. So we wanted to look at Victor Victoria for those morphologies at the very least, the interclavicle and the gastralia, right?
Sure.
So those are two very interesting traits. So what I started to do, I started to accrue many different traits from these beings, and I started to sort of collect them and sort of compile a theory into what these guys are. Because unfortunately, if you notice, I don't know if you're following a lot of the talking heads, the khaki shirt gang.
Um,
Um,
I'm trying to steer clear because the information's so muffled. I honestly don't like reporting on stuff unless I really feel like um there's a story to tell. And I have obviously gone through the basis of it and given my opinion, these are very much real. I've got a strong opinion on that. Um, and I just advocate for more transparency of the topic, which is why you're on the show, because I believe people need to know a little bit more without the confusion.
right,
And there's a lot of
exactly.
confusion.
There
There's a
is a
lot.
lot of confusion, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people are not necessarily helping.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't want to damage because I'm a UFO guy. I know what I'm looking at regarding UFOs. This is not my lane. And I like to stay in my lane because I don't want to damage the topic by jumping out of my lane, you know?
Right. And
Um,
when I even started in all this, I didn't even really talk that I was a former archaeologist, paleotech, museum educator. I didn't get into all that. I just thought we could just deal with the facts. But then one person said to me once, well, maybe if one of us was an archaeologist, we'd have a leg to stand on. So then I was kind of like, all right, well, let's double down on who I am. And I'm
That's
just
the,
hoping, even locally, that people who know me know that I'm not going to spend 2 years of my life into this to
yeah.
help my my master Jaime Maussan. I must,
I
you
mean,
know.
it's funny you say that because I went through a similar thought process when I started this off and I got deeper into it. I thought, it might be easier if I've got a little bit of qualification behind me to try and understand what these people are saying. So maybe I should
Or
look.
no, so I'm like, should I go get a doctorate so you guys listen to me?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I went through the same thing, and then I just thought, you know what? I'll stay in my lane. That's the best thing I can do. Okay, so what are we looking at here?
So this is a compiling. In bold are my assertions that I have found again based on this just simple beginnings of miles. So with interclavicals and gastralia, we also have the images of the eggs in the interior that we probably want to look at. So this
Absolutely.
is just my bullet points of what these things are. I won't read it word for word, but these are amphibian grade basal tetrapods, which means they are early in the vertebrate land animal line.
Okay.
Their morphological traits combined with the amount of unknown DNA in Victoria, those two data sets correlate to a similar time period of circa 500 million years ago. So what I mean by the morphological traits, I mean when we look at eggs in the body, the interclavicle, the gastralia, something called a Eurostyle, a combination of things suggests the only way an animal could have all of these traits together is if they came from deep time. I personally suspected that the myths of our third eye would be found and located on these beings. I'm going to switch over to camera here. Right here, this is Josephina's top of her head here. It's I gave it the nickname of the Kappa because I found it really important. In fact, I saw that it was important and even dismissing the llama theory. In the llama theory, the llama has a sagittal top of the skull crest that runs right forward to their imagined pareidolia of where the eyebrow arches are. But if you were to do that, it would destroy Josephina's pneumatic area. So she has a pneumatic areas in her skull. And that little area there, if you're familiar with the Japanese yokai, the kappa of the yokai hold water on the top of their head. And they're a nice parallel mythologically to these creatures. So I took the liberty of naming it a kappa, and I said, you were going to find your third eye there. And I believe you do have some of that imagery. I could always pull it up again, of course. Let's go back to our
Yeah,
breakdown.
people would love to
So
see that.
I did discover and find a parietal pineal complex. So not even just a third eye, you could argue it's a fourth eye, because the parietal eye, which you can see on a tuatara,
Mhm.
I don't think the tuatara also has the pineal at the top of its skull, but the lamprey does. So there's a lot of similarities to these primitive vertebrates, the lamprey, and one of them is a parietal pineal complex. While I was online looking for a model, I shared a model that I thought was just a typical parietal pineal complex, and it wasn't. It was from someone who had discovered it in an extinct monitor lizard. And I was so pleased. I was like, oh, I
Wow.
thought I was just sharing the common look of this thing. But not all creatures have this dual receptor. So I
Right.
was quite pleased by that. This is one of the things, too, the researchers are not talking about. One, they don't know about it, obviously.
Sure.
But what I'm saying, they're not talking about it. It's not being acknowledged. I'm not being recognized for these things. So, what you might see in the future is someone release a scientific report with some of this. But just know you heard it here first. Recently, I
Wow.
discovered on Luis's scans that cannot be detected on the other scans that coming off of their beak-like rostrum are two proto-canine fangs. We have a graphic for that. Someone gave me the idea of, I had it in my head of hydrostatic strategy, but sometimes it's not until someone gives you permission to think it. Is it useful? And someone said, hey, Ed, have you thought of hydrostatic strategy? I'm like, I have, but you know what? Thanks for making me go forward with that. So they have this tubular heart, which you could find in young juvenile amphibians or perhaps in invertebrates. But that tubular heart could be a clue to hydrostatic strategy, meaning they inflate their limbs with a liquid or air to allow them to move. So if there's any sort of anomalous joints, I'm not that disappointed by anomalous joints, especially if they have some sort of cephalopod octopus like strategy. And
Sure.
this hydrostatic strategy would make sense for neck extending.
Yeah.
We have
Wow.
a graphic for the Euro style. So the researchers noted a fused lower sacrum, the lower vertebrae of Maria, the larger hybrid. It wasn't until the guys gave me access to the tridactyls.org files, though, that I saw the Euro style in Louisa, meaning it is a frog butt. Why do frogs have a frog butt like that? Because they lost their tails. So if Maria has a Euro style, that implies that Maria may have been a, dare I say the word to get everybody crazy, mermaid. No one wants to use any of the fantasy terms, but
It's
these
happened.
guys,
It's
these,
happened before, man. It's happened
yeah,
before. Only a few months ago, I shouted the word fairy, and
here you
never
go,
thought I would.
exactly. So
Yeah.
moving through this list, hermaphroditic parthenogenesis, we talked about this. These beings likely self-replicate. We can see that in Komodo dragons today.
Mhm.
Now, telescopic generations, that's kind of like my regenerating thing. It's definitely a very loose hypothesis of mine. Not super confident on it yet. Uh,
I
but
think it's a
the
good one. Honestly, I
but the
think it's a good
beings
one.
may be born pregnant with
Wow.
eggs that are ready to be developed. So let's keep going.
Yeah.
Asynchronous development. The eggs are developing at a different rate. The larvae are the embryos are developing at a different rate. Multi-embryotic eggs. So we're finding it's me. We we find multiple embryos in the eggs, and this is alluding to a competitive environment that you might see in tiger sand sharks or even in tadpoles. Craniocervical brooding. So this is ripping off of what people already alluded to, which is a craniocervix integration. That is, the skull and the torso are connected. Because of this connection, we're going to have problems
Yeah.
if we don't get the larva out. So I'm calling it craniocervical brooding. The larvae display adelphophagy or embryophagy, which means because of this competitive environment, they are using these fangs against one another, which I believe I caught an image of. Lastly, cochlear transplant. That's just an Alberto. All the other beings have their ear capsules, their otic ear capsules within their skull. But for some reason, Albert's is on the outside, the left of his skull, so you can actually see the inner workings of his auditory ear. So my guess is probably part of that cranial torso brooding. So some larva got in there, and this might even be depicted in myth. There's the myth of Brahma and the mind-born motif. Athena coming from the skull of Zeus. I may have even detected this in art, and if that's the case, if I did detect this in art, then there's a good chance. Also, note Alberto has a less prognathous face.
Mm.
Believe it or not, the little xenomorph ones, the little ones with the spinal eminences, the so-called insectoids, they have a very flat face,
Mhm. Yeah.
and they don't have the arches. So I had thought that the xenomorphs may have been juvenile tridactyls, but with that flat face and missing my favorite supraorbital arches, I don't think so. I think that might just be a basal specimen. So yeah,
Wow.
that's a lot.
That's that's a lot.
Did you
There's
want
a
me to pull
lot
up any
there.
graphics? Do you have any questions about that? That is my tabula. That's my tab of everything that I've personally been involved with, that I've spotted and ripped off of other, not what I mean ripped off. I mean like riffed off is the better
Sure.
term. Riffed.
Sure.
I'm riffing off of the previous scientists is what I'm
Mm.
suggesting.
I mean, it's still a good thing because even though you're pulling out those points, you're pulling out those points because it links to something you found, and you're just connecting dots at this point. I find it really interesting as well that you mention how um, the air could potentially fill up within their bodies. I actually got a theory that they don't use their legs too much, and I think the big thing we are missing is the technology because if they do fly or they do hover or whatever, however they move, that would explain the formation of their legs, or it would explain the metal plates, which I'm going to ask you in a minute about. Um, while you were
Yeah,
talking, I was
if you
just
had a
connecting
stone
dots.
track, if you had a stone or a metal track, and then perhaps they had metal implants that allowed them to glide along the tracks, that would be interesting. But I think, someone like Artemis is, and by the way, guys, I haven't really plugged anybody else today because we're here for the science. But if you go to the-alien-project.com, you can interact with these scans yourself. It's super fun. These guys are the earliest researchers from Peru. I'm tridactyls.com. When my tech person was like, Cyberlinks was like, do you want it .org or .com? I said, save .org for the legit researchers. I'll take .com. I'm the fun social science guy. Of course, it's changed since then. But tridactyls.org are very kind enough to allow us to look at these scans today. So that's what I'm
Awesome.
here for. I'm still playing my role as sort of intermediary and just trying to give you the science
Hey
and
man,
a
it's
little
a
bit
big
of
world. we need our people in the middle to get this out there because it's a lot to deal with, and the world need to know about this. They really do. Um,
Yeah, and
I
that's part of my goal too. I could have sat on a lot of this information and wrote my book as they do,
yeah,
or really gun for a scientific report. I haven't published anything. Usually, what I do is when I write a paper, I'll post it and I'll send it to tridactyls.org just so people at least know that there's something they can riff off of. And now I do. There's a little bit of hey, I want to that a boy here. Look what I got. You know.
sure. And hey, man, listen. So far so good. I mean, if ever you want to break some news onto this channel and let us know something or update us, just send me a message. Say, hey, I've got something to
Sure.
say, and I'll get you
Absolutely.
on.
Awesome. I have to admit, I during our break, this always happens. I screwed up my scans. So
Don't
so
worry.
I'm having trouble like looking at everything. So I usually here's the thing with the scans. If you haven't gone to tridactyls.org yet, the files are just like there's dozens of them. And you have to like click on each one. I haven't renamed them because I didn't want to change the integrity of the numeric system.
Sure.
But boy, if I lose a file, it's sometimes a pain in the neck to find out which one was that. So I can look at definitely more scans if you have a specific thing you'd like to look at, or if you
Um,
want to talk about the specific morphology, or if you want to even get into the cultural connections, because I do have a statement to make on that as well. I don't have a groovy meme today for that. That's on the list to do. Every day
okay.
I try to
Okay.
make an info meme and get out information, and I'll rehash it and repackage it, and I also update my finds. Skeptics have been very useful in corrections and repositioning me in a different direction, and
Mhm.
then I come back stronger thanks to them. Most of the time, though, the skeptics are rude for some weird reason. That's another reason why I question
Yeah.
their
There's no need.
genuineness.
There's no
Even the
need for it.
gentleman with the hand got very like
Mhm.
silly. And when you press any of these people, they start to allude to you being emotionally invested, you being hyperbolic. And it's like I just want to know where you're getting your information from and why you're not looking at this information, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I've said this for a few months now, Ed. I really don't do ego because ego just makes everything stop. And this is what this is. When I commented the other day on X, it's because that one word there gets in the way so much. And really, like if someone just like you say corrected you or corrected me and just said, "Hey, you've missed
Yeah.
something. Look at this here." It in the nicest way possible, we would look at it. You
Yeah.
know, and we would
Exactly. I mean, it's
yeah,
helped me reword things, rephrase things. So yeah, the skeptics. I'm not against skeptics as a
healthy
whole. It's just,
skepticism.
it's just again when they get into insults and like
Yeah,
laugh emojis and all this stuff. I don't have time. I run a Reddit, and I treat that Reddit like a classroom. Or I used to run security in South
mm,
Florida's largest nightclub. So I run my Reddit room like a classroom or a nightclub, and I don't have time for
yeah.
silliness. And
And you
you
have
get
to
booted.
you
You're
have to on
out.
Reddit. You have to on Reddit because there's a lot of them on. Oh, there was. I think they've tightened up quite a bit. But
Can't get
yeah, I
anything
mean,
done.
yeah, we've got like 8 minutes. So should we do this one and then I guess we're going to go for part three if you've got time because
I do.
yeah, I think we
Yeah,
should get as much detail as possible.
I might be at a stage where I'm going to be needing like 3 hours to talk. I think.
That's
I'm
fine.
probably gonna. I mean, not. I'm not saying not just you. I did do I did a lecture recently. Wasn't finding cooperation on a place to do it,
Hmm.
so I rented the local theater, and it's on YouTube, so you can definitely check out that. I've tried to get as much of at Tridactyls as I can, so I'm at Tridactyls on X, at Tridactyls on Facebook, at Tridactyls TikTok,
Yeah,
etc.
I'm going to put your all your socials and everything you've said and overlay it to make sure
And
that we've
again,
got
yeah,
it
I'm a
all.
former archaeologist and educator. Um, is it personal? Am I emotional to an extent that I absolutely love this topic, and I am absolutely a purveyor of truth, and get extremely disappointed in these essentially lies,
Mhm.
propaganda, ad hominem attacks against professionals that these people don't know? So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's been
Yeah.
a fight when I just wanted to research,
This is
aliens built the pyramids.
yeah. It goes back to what we were saying. You get pulled into it. It's the topic we chose to love, and you just get pulled into this mess without asking for it, you know. And any researcher will tell you they've done 1,000 things wrong before they found 1,000 things right. Okay, we are back for part three. Do you know what? We could probably talk all night, Ed. Welcome back. And we're going to go into more detail about the mummies now. I think you've got some things you want to show me. I definitely want to. We're going to go back to that mummy with the eggs and the breastplate if we can. Um,
Sure.
because
And that is Louisa. And actually, if you look here at the way I've kind of arranged it, we have Josephina up top.
Mhm.
There's Alberto in the middle. To the
Wonderful.
right, we have Maria.
Oh,
Victoria lower left.
you're just over Victoria there with the missing head, but we have seen her anyway, so it's not a big deal. Um,
Louisa, and then we have Montserrat. So let's zoom in on Louisa.
okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is really what people want to know about because upon looking at this, they're seeing a tridactyl being, but an upright one because they're just seeing it on an X-ray. And it's hard to sort of imagine a being like this, kind of shaped like us, but holding eggs. And this is where the reptile and all of that comes into play. Just explain to me what you see and find here.
Well, yeah, a lot of people talk about it does have that bipedal nature, but their arms I've discovered are longer than their legs. So if these are in fact hybrids like Maria has chimpanzee DNA in her. So chimpanzee DNA or human DNA might be an explanation of what you're seeing, but that's only like 3%. But that 3% might be enough for us to see some human or primate likenesses. So
Sure.
that's another thing I don't think a lot of people are talking about. These may practice sort of part-time quadrupedalism. Of course, these are, in my opinion, these are marine creatures, amphibious creatures. So whatever you see here is only likely one aspect of a very unique creature with a neck that can extend and there's talk, of course, in the myth of these beings being shapeshifters. And
Hmm.
I think, well, not necessarily these beings, myth in general, there's talk of shape shifting. I believe the shape shifting is originating from these beings two different ways. One, since they are amphibious, there is a metamorphosis process. So they're going through a larval stage. And also because these beings can go in the water and switch to a quadrupedal stage from a bipedal stage is going to give the illusion to primitive primates that perhaps this being is shifting shape. So we're talking about the eggs, but even before Louisa, I have Artemis up here.
Hmm.
And this was one of my first discoveries. And I thought that I discovered what appears to be eggs in the state of hatching. So if you go to my Twitter page, this is tagged. You can hear the audio. This is from the alienproject.com using their footage. So I've used both theirs and tridactyls.org. I mean, I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing here, which is you provide this, you get, they put out the information for people, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I thought the idea was to continue with the studies, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I had an advantage. I have an advantage over typical scientific researchers in that archaeology is predicting the biology. So here we have in my hand a similar one.
This is
A
a pig dragon, which is
This
funny.
is a Hongsheng pig dragon.
I mean that it's just so strange that you bring that up and it's got the word dragon in it.
Yeah. So these beings are the dragons. These beings are the dragons. They're the Naga. Cosmologically speaking, they're the tutelary beings of mythology. They represent everything from dwarves to dragons, mermaids to centaurs,
Eh, eh,
angels and demons.
it's funny, Ed, because the little objects that we record and capture was first captured by Dr. Robert Shipe over in LA 8 years ago, and he thought they were dragonflies for the first year,
Hmm.
and now they're called Dragon UAP.
Huh. And we also have the Dragon Man fossils.
Yeah, there's a lot of
So,
there's many different correlations, and when you said the word dragon, I just thought, well, there's another one. There's another dragon description.
this was a clue that the ancients were well aware of these. And again, the Chinese were already associating these beings with dragons. So when I'm not being hyperbolic when I say these beings are dragons.
Hmm.
This is what the ancients alluded to.
Right.
I'm pushing, of course, for a genus of the term Naga, as in the Hindu gods. These beings are the Naga. The Naga are said to have a Nagamani, cobra gemstone in their head. We found again, I always say we, it's me.
Sure.
We found the gemstone. It's the pineal gland in the top of their skull. So these are the Naga and the dragons.
That really is resonating with me based on an experience I had recently. And the object that I saw on camera, that was there was three objects, but the one above me, I've got a bit of a personality on me, and I actually called it a dragon mother, right? Um,
Oh.
yeah, well, I called it a vampire dragon mother because it looked like a vampire-y type of. It's the only way I could describe it.
Huh.
Um, like I film many birds over, like, literally just a field outside my window here. I go live, I record. Anyone on my channel will tell you, but um, I took a walk over there one day, and when I saw this thing back on the camera, I just thought to myself, that looks like some kind of vampire. Like, I'll have to send you the video, Ed. But
Yes.
everything you're telling me now is just,
Do you say you
you
have
know,
I don't know if you have an Asian background by any chance, but there are people today who claim descendancy from dragons and the Naga. This is not like the Loch Ness monster we're talking about here. We're talking about a deep cosmology, which
wow.
is why if I told you, as I said, I was tracing these from Peru to the Caribbean to Canada to the Easter Island to New Zealand to Syria to Europe. And it all comes back to the very codified beliefs in Nagas and dragons in Asian lore. Let's keep going with this egg.
Yeah, let's keep
We're
going.
looking
My mind is
we're looking
blown.
at what I said. That is a face of a baby dragon, a baby
How?
Naga.
Oh, wow.
Here it is from up above. There it is again, going around, zooming in, up above again. This was the first, and probably one of the best footage still. Another close up of the face. That was a hard one to see.
Mm.
Again, I feel sorry. I know the scans are not always the best, but again, this isn't hunting Bigfoot. This isn't squinting. Oh, there we go. We're seeing some more
Sure.
here.
That does look amazing.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, just on the scans alone, how can anyone say these have been faked? It just, it don't compute with me. It's
Right.
to say
Right.
they're fake
But
just
the
throws
people that
every.
are saying it's fake, someone told them it was fake or something. And this is the definition of confirmation bias. You can literally see it happen. If I say to you, hey, this guy says this finger was moved around, and then they go, oh, see, I knew it the whole time. And it's like, my man, you cannot dismiss 20 bodies, DNA, CT scans with one finger bone. Any more than if I came to you with a finger bone and said, I got aliens.
It's it's madness, isn't it? I
It's literal madness, and it's making me nuts. I
what
keep
what
saying people are going to either accept me as a xenoanthropologist or I'm going to go become a shaman somewhere.
I, What worries me the most, though, Ed, is that there are people up in high places that are in charge of things like research, and they're that clueless.
Right.
Uh,
They're exact, my own friends. They're being blocked by confirmation bias.
it's quite
And I would
scary.
just,
It's
I'm
quite
so
scary.
it is scary. I feel like what's that movie, Don't Look Up?
Mm,
Like, let's say like Joe Rogan. I would love to get on Rogan to tell the world.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, he's the man, but it's like, look, how do I get to him?
Man, listen, if ever I tried back in the day to send him some footage because a few years ago he was like, I'd love to see a real UFO, and he kept saying it on his show, and I was like, hell, I got some footage for you. I'll send
Yeah.
you. I can
And
send you
I'm
two
not selling
videos.
anything. I don't
Yeah.
have anything monetized. I may have made $2 off of TikTok once.
Hey,
You
or
know what I'm
don't spend it
saying?
all at
It's and
once.
people say they talk about grift. I'm like, this is costing people money. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's how,
Or
but it's very juvenile. It shows how juvenile their thinking is when they're
mhm.
like, "Oh, you must be making money." I'm like, it sounds like something a poor person thinks, and
Yeah.
then they assume that, like they don't understand how capitalism works, and
Mm.
we're not making money off of this. But so far, we're it's costing us money, even to
Every
run my
time.
T-shirt store.
Yeah. I was just telling my
So what are we
audience.
looking at?
I go to crop circles and stuff, and I tell him every time I leave the house, I am minus. I am not.
Zooties, exact. Thank you. You know what I'm talking about. As
Yeah,
soon as you leave the house, you're spending money. So what do we got
exactly.
here? Just another collection of fetuses from
Mhm.
various eggs. I do use the term larva many times because I
Yeah.
want it to be clear. I think people were expecting to find, I'm thinking people intimately involved in this research were expecting to find baby ETs in a single egg. But if you look in the lower left-hand corner here, this is an egg showing that competitive environment, what I'm speaking of. Those little black dots allude to eyes. That's why when I saw your picture of the UFO, I was like, oh, look at that.
I
So
see
up
the
front, we have
similarity there.
a very anthropomorphic face. And of course, if you're familiar with the mythology, if you take the
Mm.
Sphinx is also them. The Sphinx is the face of a woman. There's a face. Here's another one coming out of an egg, almost like a little Kermit the Frog head coming out. Over here, we have I don't know if you're familiar with Marvel's Sasquatch.
Yep.
That face looking to the right looks almost like
Whoa.
our Sasquatch. And over here, we looks like we probably have two serpentine larval forms with their cordiform heart-shaped heads. And then there's my guy from just the last scan in Artemis, the one I'm naming Casas.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I haven't had a lot of contact with Theory, and I don't know if people told them to stay away. But um, at first, when I posted that, he reposted it and said, "Wow." And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. So you guys don't know about that?" And
Mm.
that kind of prompted me to really push the research because I
Cool.
think not everyone has the time or patience to stare at these scans. And I
Nope.
have to tell your viewers, once again, I've been doing this full time for 2 years. That means I've probably logged in 5,000 hours of research, albeit some of that's making the content to share with you guys. So we were on about the eggs and the larva, and let's just take another close-up picture
Sure.
at some of these eggs.
Yeah.
So, and we can look at the scans. It's also sometimes just as easy for me to pull up a what I call them info memes.
So,
So you're going to see like tadpole versions.
sure.
Um, probably the reason the the strange little salamander from Mexico.
Yeah.
See, I'm having trouble saying the word solotl. Is that what it is? I can't remember myself.
Cilantro.
Forward limbed salamander. So that has religious significance to people.
Yeah.
And I suggest one of the reasons it is because these beings here go through a forward limb metamorphosis. So let's see here. I'm going to share this with you.
That's incredible, though. It's incredible that this could even exist, and us only just finding out now. It's do the try.
it's
Okay.
it's possible that when Louisa See, if you put the diatomaceous earth on a creature that breathes cutaneously, you could kill it. So these beings may have been preserved alive, which means the embryos may have gone into overdrive. So what we have here, again, looks like a competitive environment of multiple embryos. Do you see that?
Yep.
Little eyes,
Hmm.
perhaps even some heads. And one of the analogies I used was sand tiger sharks, which have been
Yeah.
shown to attack one another, and even tadpoles do it with a specific tadpole belonging to the vampire. Oh, by the way, look at this. This is what a hand looks like if you chop off the fingers. Okay, it's a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's not what we're looking at.
Oh, well, I'm not going to show this at dinner time. We're good.
No doubt, right? So what was I going to show you? Forgot now. We were talking
The
about
head.
the tadpoles.
Oh, yes.
So this is a close up of a vampire frog tadpole. This is a fang. Tadpoles have fangs.
Wow. On a microscopic level.
And tadpoles in different species of frogs engage in adelphophagy or embryophagy. They kill one another, especially if resources are low. So, using that same egg I showed you with the sand shark, we are going to zoom in to this picture here. And again, I apologize for the graphics. These are images that are 2 millimeters in a skull or a egg. So we're not hunting Bigfoot here, but you have to be patient with that sort of, and some of it, yeah, there is a little bit of trust me, bro, here. You got to trust the guy who's been looking at this stuff for 2 years and
Yeah.
who knew what to look for. Keep in mind, I knew they had the larva. I already knew they went through a metamorphosis. How is that possible before the science? The archaeology told me. If you
Yeah.
even look at the Peruvian stuff, the Paracas stuff, you can see the larval forms on the ceramics, on the fabrics.
It
Boom.
leaves the trace. It leaves the evidence is there, and you're just matching the two.
We have
Um,
a very blurry image of what I suggest is a tridactyl head atop another tridactyl head stacked upon each other with two fangs entering the skull of the other head. So we have the two eyes here,
mhm.
grayed out, meaning that this thing, maybe when Louisa was preserved, maybe this thing was already dead, having its blood drained by its brother up above.
Yeah. Potentially. Look at that.
Now, while we can be skeptical, there's always another contributing factor. I never put out, we've had two things today I talked about that needs further study. Do the beings experience regeneration? Do they experience telescopic generations? That is, are they born successfully pregnant? Now, one of the simplest traits we don't talk about ever, all of our skeptics, all of our talking heads from the khaki shirt gang, for some reason, don't want to talk about the simplest morphology. They have beaks.
Man. I'll show you something else later. God. My God.
So they have beaks, and unlike the other scans, Louisa seems to demonstrate a fang coming off of the side, which is her maxilla, her top jaw. I like to call it the isosceles maxilla, only for cultural purposes, because I want everyone to know when they are hunting for tridactyls that the maxilla is frequently depicted in art.
Sure.
And so I call it the isosceles. So it's triangular shaped. And it's one of the ways that the ancients used steganography. That is, they concealed knowledge of the beings. Obviously, something like a pig dragon, not really concealed. So I
Mm.
just want to be clear with people that I researched this first, which schooled me on what to look for in the eggs.
Clever.
And so back to this picture here, we have a left and right of Louisa, which appears to be fangs, which explains this recess here that I've seen in the other beings. So while this came up, I didn't see the fangs. I don't know if they were removed, if the image wasn't powerful or too powerful, I should say, to see it. But this is a great image of a fang. So hopefully your viewers understand that what I do is it's a combination of data sets.
Sure.
So what you have here, as I suggest, is, and hyperbolic as it seems, these are the impetus for humanity's totality in cosmological beliefs. And unfortunately, that includes vampires.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vampires, mermaids, centaurs. It's ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous to say it, but the ancients had to come up with something. Now, and there's a lot of people who like to lean even in different directions politically. And there's this move for, when we say these things that we're dismissing, the indigenous people, right? But we're not. We're actually, I'm looking at the
Embracing.
indigenous beliefs
Embracing it.
holistically, embracing it.
Yeah.
Before 2023, when they showed the bodies to Congress, I was a skeptic. I
Of
dismissed the
course.
Bible. I hated talk about reptilians, rolled my eyes at the Anunnaki, only to find that all of that is wrapped up together in some, again, holistic belief system. And the trick is now differentiating which was poetically embraced. I'll go as far as to say even stories as Cain and Abel may just be about this embryophagy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, all the stories could be. They could all have a basis or similarities, which just, obviously stories they become their own thing after a while and change. But
Now
these things are responsible.
we mentioned cranial integration, right? Do you
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about? Remember that? Cranial cervix integration.
Yeah, so it's all connected. But
It's all connected. And this is
yeah,
what the researchers put forth. So I was able to, between that and the amphibian nature, and the fact that we can see the eggs hatching within the body,
yeah,
that this said to me that there are other myths out there, such as we mentioned Brahma's mind-born motif, things born from the skull. There's also lots of images of things born from the mouth. Okay? So that born from the mouth plus the science is how I start to combine things. The cranial cervix integration. So these things appear to be being born through the eggs and perhaps traveling to other parts of the body. So Artemis, we could look at her, has a series of operations. This may be just a series of larval forms being wedged in between ribs and gastralia, forcing an operation to extract. So these beings may have been the impetus to our earliest cesarean sections and trephination skull
sure.
surgery. So speaking of skull, I knew the mind-born theory was there, and I told my friend, I said, I'm going to find larvae in a skull. And here's a few examples. Perhaps some images are better than others.
Sure. But they're not going to be pitch perfect, are they? You're looking at ancient
These
old.
are these are probably, a millimeter image, right? These are tiny little
Yeah,
things.
tiny.
Tiny little things. So what do we have here? It looks like a serpentine being, very similar to my Casas embryo with the head looking to the side there. This might be the same specimen. I don't know. Certainly the same form.
Mm.
Another serpentine head here, and note that their heads are facing down. This one
Yep.
here could be
Hey, that
one resting in a fissure. And
man, it's just blowing my mind here.
this one here appears to be going in deep. So whether they did it for survival purpose or as it's just a natural state of them, they are in the skull of Louisa feeding as we speak, which, those fangs of tadpoles they're actually for many of them, it's just to eat eggs. So they're still practicing. They're still attacking their brothers, but easier targets. So that's
Sure.
all they're doing. Again, we have parallels. We have plenty of amphibious parallels. I have tadpole parallels for you. This is what I'm suggesting you're seeing. And again, I'm able to. The researchers probably would never think of looking in the skull for larvae, right? But I have the mythology to support me. So it's been
That's
a
just
wild
yeah.
ride.
Yeah. I can totally understand why you've put in, was it 5,000 hours worth of
Well, I
research?
can't stop, right? This
No.
is recent. This and the
Yeah.
fangs was what just last week.
Wow.
So I literally say I can't put this down. If I even said I'm like I'm exhausted. I'm like, am I done? Have I? Because what I did was I tried to go through each anomalous body part. So when people said, "Oh, the joints don't work," well, you know what? They don't have ball and socket joints. They have hinge joints like an amphibian.
Yeah.
The legs don't appear to work. Well, hydrostatic limbs may allow for a lot of the fingers don't work. Well, they have an extra phalanges so they can take up extra space. And the mythology is talking about probably these two fingers, using your two fingers as tongs, according to Greek myth, is what the dactyls did.
Hmm.
By the way, the name was interesting. I saw the Alien Project people calling it reptilian. They also use insectoid. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think these are aliens. I think these are ancestors.
Yeah.
You said ET
Ancestors.
earlier. I say UT,
Yeah.
terrestrials,
Yeah.
as they've been here forever. Not even crypto-terrestrial, because I know who they are. They're the Naga
Hmm.
of mythology that brought man culture. So we say we're not. People say, "Don't you dare dismiss indigenous beliefs," but the indigenous beliefs all say the gods brought them agriculture, civilization, basket weaving,
Almost
language.
arguing their own point. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly,
It's
right?
yeah, when you get to the nitty gritty, they are arguing their own point. I mean, I've got two questions for you. First one, the
Go
breastplate.
ahead.
What do you think that is for?
I think
And I know
I
this is
think that
theorized. I know this is all theorized stuff, but what do you think?
I've got a great one for you. I suggest those are magnetic breasts to feed the primates,
Oh, to feed the primates.
to
Okay.
feed the primate hybrids. Now, keep in mind too the Sicil. God, I'm not. It sounds like Sicilian. I can't say it. The worm-like amphibians. Just recently, we've learned excrete a fluid, a milk-like fluid for the larvae to eat. Also, these larvae practice they eat their mother. They eat the skin of their mother on the inside. That's why there's already precedent and parallels. When I find parallels and precedent, I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. Thank you. Because it just shows you can do this.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
it does sound crazy. But when you start to tie it all together holistically and not focused on a finger bone or masan or whatever the other just silliness that's out there.
Sure.
We talk about us being conspiracy theorists. People are weaving this narrative of Dr. Frankenstein labs modifying llamas to trick anthropologists all over the world.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And the thing is, there's only apart from the issue we've got with people are higher up in places that just are completely incompetent, which is probably top priority. Uh, we're still not done. There's still going to be stuff that's going to be uncovered, which is still going to be even more unbelievable
The
than what we've
cultural
already found.
stuff also is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah,
So, I started this process because of the petroglyphs. And those petroglyphs, the most important thing about them is maybe the heart-shaped face to me. Everyone talks about the three
it's
fingers.
so distinctive, though, isn't it?
So the heart-shaped face, and just going through and everyone should definitely, I don't know what people's favorite medium is to use, but definitely go through my pictures. Again,
Yeah.
this is not about
I mean,
monetizing. I feel like I have to make excuses now. Everyone's so paranoid. It's
no.
like I
If
have to put a
anything,
disclaimer. I do not work for Jamie Mason.
my
It's like I do
last
not. I've never worked for the CIA.
yeah,
People are so.
my last guest took a sip of Iron Brew or something or Mountain Dew, and I was like, no, he's not sponsored by Mountain Dew.
Oh no.
You know.
And
Um,
that's why yeah, exactly. So here's a cool Native American image here.
yeah,
And it has a bit of a heart-shaped head. Looks like two limbs in the front that are three fingers, and it's coming from the mouth.
yeah, yeah,
But the heart shape is one of the most important ones. Here's also just again, oops. Oh, we hop around a lot. Here's a upper view of a parietal eye. So the third eye.
yeah. Oh, wow.
Oh, I lost it. It's gone. You'll never see it again. I did send you some of these. This
Yep.
is we've discussed the I discussed the Euro style in Maria.
Hmm.
So that is a frog-like tailbone. So while the researchers did say it was fused, I'm saying it's fused for a reason. She lost a
She
tail.
lost the tail at somewhere at some stage. Man, this just screams amphibian, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, this you can't, and that's why even today when people like say reptilian, I'm like, oh boy. So we can start talking about the cultural, baby. It's funny. I've gotten so far away from the cultural because why? I have made some incredible finds. So if I'm finding predicted pineal glands, predicted mouth brooding, it's you can see how it's hard for me to stop,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I get
But
it.
the
I
the
get it.
cultural stuff is as important. I have my what I call theotherianthropic grapheme theory, which means, if I were to break it down, that whole word, uh,
Please, like
God beast man letters. So
God Beastman
if
letters.
you this isn't this isn't I don't make this stuff up. I'm taking this from other
Wow.
people. Language was brought to us by them, is what we're
Yeah.
told. So here's one of the earliest
Oh,
depictions
okay.
for the word heaven or God. Tien. So it's a little being.
In that color too,
I did the green to sell it, of course, right?
of course. But
I could probably find a better. I could probably save myself time.
oh, you've got
I'll just
loads
stop
there.
the sharing for now and let you talk.
Yeah, you've
Well,
got loads there. We will wrap it up. We've got like five
we're
minutes
wrapped it
left
up.
on this
Okay, we've
one.
done 3 hours. You know what? I
Yeah.
should. We there's one picture I did send you, so we should probably put that up. I tell you, I go all over the place. You have to keep
Well,
me
you'll
on
have
a,
to come
a
back on as
leash.
well, Ed. We'll have to have you
Oh,
back on.
absolutely, absolutely. So let's just wrap it up with I'm trying to figure out, should I show you like a animated version of something, or let's see what we can find here. So as I was saying, yes, I was saying that this is what I call a global phenomenon.
It is.
um, you can find the heart-shaped faces all over the world. So, which is part of my last theory, which is that the letters of humanity are inspired by mankind, including the heart. Our heart comes from them. Why? Because it's associated with mother goddesses, fertility, and ancestor worship. The ionic columns come to us via goddess temples. That too, your ionic columns atop of a pillar are just a way of demonstrating these beings. So that is how deep I suggest they are. We are them. We can stop with the with we and them sort of thing. We are them somehow, some way. I don't know. Evolved, manufactured. So that is why we call them ancestors. That is why we call them mother goddesses, etc., etc. So the ionic columns and the mother goddess thing was a big deal. And it led me to a theory. And I mentioned that not only is it just about the columns and the mother goddess,
Mhm.
but those temples many times relate to serpents and healing, underground springs. So
Yeah.
take a look at this little video I made,
Cool.
and it's on YouTube. And it's just to show you probably the most drastic example of one of my theories, which is steganography, or have no graven image theory, or hidden in plain sight. So the ancients, whether they were hybrids or humans, knew of these things. They segued from just drawing straight up stick figures of the beings and proceeded to conceal their information. Building is over 2,000 years old. The site's over 5,000 years old.
Corner of the pillar conceal the faces of non-human beings. Okay.
These are
Oh wow.
depicting, you can already see it, can't you? That's
Yeah.
two goddesses together, but part of the steganography is perspective anamorphosis, meaning you have to believe to see.
Yeah.
So what happens is you put the two goddess faces together, you stand at a particular angle, you have knowledge of the beings, and their maxilla plate is revealed, their supraorbital arches are revealed. I believe their eyes may even have their scaled skin in it. So yeah, I can go on forever. I rarely ever get to touch upon the steganography topic
Yeah. Oh
because
hey man.
we spend so much time on the biology. So
Yeah,
let's definitely take a break for
yeah,
a while.
I'll schedule you in as soon as you're ready to talk about it. Honestly, there's so much that we could be going over. That's amazing. I'm definitely going to be digging through more images because you're connecting some dots here, and I'm already starting to connect my own dots to your research now because of the things we're seeing up in the sky, and that
Yeah,
stuff
and
we're
then
seeing today.
you can also ask me about my Hudson River Valley sighting. I'll save the
Hell yeah,
details.
hell yes,
Back in the
definitely.
80s.
Oh, we've definitely got to listen to that one. Right, we're going to get you back on it for sure.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me go on.
No worries, mate. I'm going to show all of it. Nothing's going to be held back, and I promise you, you've always got a platform with me. And I'm going to do my best to get you to. I'm going to try and reach out to others and see if they'll have you on because I think,
Please, again, I'll just go on and on. You know, maybe I
yeah,
should just start the next show with steganography, but I know everybody wants the biology. In fact, you know, one of the only reasons I dove into the biology was like, oh, people got to believe these things are physically real before you believe that ancient Egypt's hiding them. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Aliens built the pyramids, and then I find their faces on those pillars, and it's like, okay, we've got some reevaluating to do.